So watch what you say now, but I'm gonna mess around here. Mark's gonna do his big sound check while
Ron, checkmate king two. This is White Rick over.
we got you, White Rick. We got you.
What TV show is that from?
Oh,
Only guys our age would know.
I hear
that.
something. I hear something. Okay.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, you won't either.
I hear something.
Mod Squad?
Hey, somebody's got it. We got something going on. I muted my sound.
Yeah, you won't. That was from a program in the mid '60s called Combat.
We got an echo somewhere.
Yeah, somebody's got their mid '60s Combat.
Jesus, folks, we got an echo here. We got an echo somewhere.
Yes.
There it goes. It's fixed.
Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, and go. Welcome into DroneNation for August 1st, 2022. The very first show of August. And we got a big show on the agenda tonight here. I just want to roll a few little things off here before we start the show here. I want to wish a very happy birthday to our friends Dennis Lovelady and Michael Wright, two of the nicest guys in the drone community out there. So very happy birthday for you. Happy
birthday.
The DroneNation cake will be arriving soon to your locations. And also I want to send out a big get well soon to our friend Bill Thomas over at Drone Therapy, who's been under the weather a little bit lately. So hopefully he'll be good enough to be back on the airwaves this week. But okay, let's get into the big show tonight. We got our usual co-host here, and our super special guest host tonight is John Flynn, Fly'in Flynn Media, all the way from Western Michigan tonight. So, and of course, we have a super secret guest coming on in just a couple minutes, and this guy's going to help us out. Yeah, you guys aren't the super secret guys or whatever, but the super secret guest, we will give you a hint.
Wake up, Marco.
In fact, Marcus, give the people a hint who the super secret guest could be tonight. Love to out in chat.
Well, let's see. What is a good hint for this individual? He is one of the foremost FPV authorities in the country today.
Oh, I thought that was you, Marcus.
Not even close. Not even close.
Okay. Let's go around the horn here and catch up a little bit. Marcus,
all right, Marcus, we got to take these off.
What have you been up to?
Like Dr. Bowman is talking about, Ted is talking about in the chat. It's been so damn hot in Idaho. Like today, I think it was 106. In fact, I'm looking right now. Well, it's right at 100 right now. It was 104 just a little bit ago. It's so blazing hot that if you're going to go out and fly, you better do it early in the morning or late in the evening, because it's pretty crazy. So for me, mostly avoiding the heat and getting out and flying when I can.
Good. Now, DeMarco, what's your heat situation there in Arkansas?
Well, last week half of last week and the week before it was in the hundreds all week. Today, I believe it was a high of 91, but like we're supposed to hit 100 tomorrow. So it is what it is. But I do have some breaking news.
Can you tell it now? You're gonna say it.
Yes, I have finally flown the Air 2S.
Oh. And how did you like it?
Yay!
Hallelujah!
I was like, and
happy day.
Wonderful
how
bird.
How did go?
What, great. It really is. From flying the Mini 3 for a couple of months and then jumping on that one, there is a big difference. And there's nothing. I'm taking nothing away from the Mini 3, but Air 2S is a step up. Probably the same way, or not the same way, not probably the same way that the Mavic 3 would be a step up from the Air 2S. So it is a great bird, though. And that RC Pro, woo, man.
Oh,
nice. Definitely a step up from the Smart Controller. Definitely. So powerful, faster. Yeah, it's worth the money that I took from the kids' college fund to buy it. But yes, son, I'm kidding.
Hey, DeMarco, is any truth that you hit that Mega Millions $1 billion ticket last weekend?
I can't answer that, Ron.
Hey, the other
answer
thing is, I want you to realize, DeMarco, your door is open behind you,
Nope.
and Shelly probably heard that.
I know she just came home. Though I saw her drive up in the she's unloading groceries right now. But anyway, Ron, you flying?
We can't. Luckily, we still haven't got the first heat wave down. Sure, we had a couple hot days here and there, but I didn't fly a lot this week because it was either cloudy or rainy or whatever. But so it wasn't a big week for me. But we want to catch. This is John's first time on the show here from Western Michigan, and we want to. John, tell us a little bit about yourself. And I know I've already said Michigan a couple times. Tell us where in Michigan you live and kind of what drones are you flying right now.
Well, I'm like you said, in Western Michigan, actually in Portage, which is kind of a suburb of Kalamazoo, or is it the other way around, DeMarco? I don't know.
No suburb. That's good though. My former home too. So
Yeah, DeMarco lived here for a few years,
yes.
unbeknownst to me.
No, didn't know each other.
So, but
Not
anyway,
that far from each other too.
Yeah. At any rate, I've been flying the Air 2S primarily. I did get the Mini 3. I'm actually on my second Mini 3. I had to send mine back. I had some issues with some of the stitching on panoramas and some of the other pictures. Worked with DJI. They were great. I mean, it took a few weeks kind of going back and forth, trying different things. Ended up sending it back, and they actually replaced the unit. It's working fine now, so I'm a happy DJI customer.
Good.
Sounds good.
It was a pleasure meeting you too, John. Yay.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, we had a brief time to fly, but I tell you what, if you have a meetup with DeMarco and you're not having fun, then there's definitely something wrong.
That's
Now, John,
all the
John,
liquor and the ladies that follow me. Yay.
Oh yeah, there was that too. That was a problem too.
Was that laser probably his wife? Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, one of the reasons we got your show was, can you critique DeMarco's FPV flying skills?
Ooh.
Well, I think maybe you should have John Coopy do that because I'm by no means an FPV expert. That sounds good.
No. I was to say we were flying in a school, middle school. John, is it a middle school?
It's between a middle school and elementary in a golf course.
There were homes surrounding it, and it was about 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And as soon as I put it up, I was like, "Oh man, somebody's gonna come out here and say something that is too loud." But no one bothered us. So
Sound effects again?
yeah,
Lon lives around Grand Rapids, Michigan. You should have had him come to the drone meetup.
Yeah.
Who, Lon? Well, here
yeah.
was the thing. Yes, I did think about Lon, and Lon, I wouldn't hate on you, but like I only had so much time, and John was actually John lives in Portage, and I was staying in Portage too. So
it was kind of an impromptu thing, but
yeah,
next year. And I know like Jody from Drone Shots, I think he's in Battle Creek.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So love to meet up with him as well.
Yeah.
So.
Hey,
Lon's about an hour north of Portage.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. And you got a compliment from Johnny Drone Flyer out there, John. He said you do a great job of supporting all the drone channels out there. So from everybody in the community, we want to thank you for that support, John.
It's my pleasure. I think you all do a great job. I mean, what a great community. I mean, it is. There's not a better group of people that are out there. So.
It's too bad that somebody doesn't come up with a drone meetup in that like Chicago, Illinois, Michigan area. That would seem to be a good idea.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for reminding us. Great Chicago Drone Meetup is scheduled for. Is it August 12th?
13th.
13th.
I can't go.
By the guys for the Fly Zone show and
Half Drone crew. Half Chrome drones, yeah.
Yep. Thank you for that reminder. I wanted to put that in the notes, but I forgot about it. So, okay, let's bring our super secret guest host, and I don't think anybody's guessed them out in the chat yet, did they? I saw a couple wrong guesses, but I didn't see any right guesses.
Listen, let me add this. He is very likely, I said he's one of the foremost FPV authorities in the nation. He is probably the foremost FPV authority in the nation.
About to live up to there.
Yeah.
And this guy's been around a long time. This guy's no newcomer. He's been he was there in the early days of drone flying on YouTube.
Oh, Johnny Drone Flyer, come on, dude.
What'd Johnny say?
I don't. Yeah, well, thank you, Lon. Thank you so much, Lon. I appreciate it.
So, okay, well, let's just, with no further ado, let's get the super secret guest host in here. So, this man originated in New Jersey, where I'm at, but now he's in, help me out. Is it Missouri, John's in? Is it Missouri?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Now he's relocated to the great state of Missouri. And again, I go on, but let's just bring him on in here. With no further ado, your favorite John Coopy.
Oh my God, you guys are too much. Thanks, guys. So someone has to clip DeMarco's impression of an FPV drone there. Someone's got to clip that.
It could have been a 2-stroke motorcycle. That's possible.
Well, it's not. The context of the show. That's just too good, man.
Hey, John's gonna make that into a video. Watch. You're gonna make
It's good to be on with you guys, Flynn. It's good to see you on here. Marcus, Ron. Yeah, good to be back on.
We're going to refer to John Coopy as Coopy the rest of the night because we have two Johns in here. So we will just call him Coopy for the rest of the night. What have you been up to? Has this been a good summer for you, flying a lot of FPV?
Yeah, it actually has been. So, my YouTube's been kind of quiet if you check my uploads, but I've been getting together with friends, flying. I just flew with my friend Patrick, One Eye in the Sky, the other day. He was actually on Johnny's show just this past week. So, yeah, we've been getting out and flying. I would say the last month, the heat, though, has been horrible, and I'm sure some of you guys can share that. We've had some very, very hot days, 105 degrees. So July's been a slow month for flying, but overall, honestly, from spring through most of the summer, it's been pretty good. I'm looking forward to fall. Honestly, it needs to cool down a bit.
And you have a nice place to fly out there. Somebody has is it a farm where they have a lot of real estate?
Yeah, so we actually have two awesome places to fly. I've got a good friend, and he's got a ton of property. And he literally has a little farm there, and he's got FPV gates and stuff, all that set up. Really, really nice guy. And we also like to fly at a more public-ish area right down by the Missouri River. And we kind of just go hang out there, enjoy the river. It's got good little spots for flying wings and drones. So, yeah, we've got two pretty cool places to fly here that we usually frequent.
Yeah, in both those spots, John, you got a little shade you can get under too, right?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So it's good all around. And like I said, we've been doing a lot of flying. Just haven't put a whole lot of it on YouTube, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, again, it's tough to add all these and get them into content, ready for YouTube. So.
Absolutely. I tell you what, though, TikTok. I know I've said it before, but man. Get on TikTok and post stuff if you don't mind being on that platform. I swear, I put something on there and it does way better than YouTube. Like a short 30-second to 60-second clip, you throw it on there. I feel like that kind of content gets way more attention on TikTok. It might just be me.
I heard that the Chinese government loves your videos on TikTok, John.
Oh God,
that's a whole nother story that we're not going to get into tonight. But listen,
that is a whole other story.
Folks, you probably hear about the all the court, the race day quad lawsuit thing, and maybe some changes to the remote ID. But we're gonna. That's going to be the focus of the show. We're going to run through the other topics first, and then we're going to really get into that in some depth here. So just a couple small things. Since we did the show last week, the DJI Avata FPV drone, the DJI goggles, I think 3, and the Air Module 2 have all shown up in the FCC database. So they're real products. We don't know if they're coming out this week, next week, 6 months from now, but they will come out. And a little birdie told me
Ooh.
there's a good chance that the Avata drone could actually show up as soon as this week or whatever. So keep your eyes peeled. But as far as that that new drone ship coming out, but I want to hear John's thoughts on Koopy, his not only thoughts on that drone, but the new goggles, the new air module too, because that means a lot to the FPV community.
Right. So Ron, what I'm gonna say is going based on what I have heard from Mads Tech live stream publicly and it's Blunty FPV. Both are people who are pretty close to, I guess, some sources that they were able to take a look at some of this stuff. So as far as the O3 air unit, I've actually heard it's going to be possibly quite expensive, but it's going to have some cool capabilities. Supposedly, it will maybe incorporate an action camera in as part of the air unit itself. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be very expensive from what I have heard. Not something you might want to be crashing with. I think it's also going to do 1080p, and something else good. It's supposedly going to work with the DJI V2 goggle that we've all been using up until this point as well. Might not work initially, but supposedly DJI's intentions is to go ahead and update the older goggles to work with it. So the idea that the old goggles are totally end of life is not necessarily the case. Things are looking better, in my opinion, as far as that goes.
Good. And we talked about last week before the Avanta was even official that the cost of these things, if DJI could make their new all-in-one FPV drones come out and work with the older goggles and maybe older controllers, they could sell those drones cheaper and people could use their equipment from their last one and make these new FPV drones more affordable.
Yeah, that's one thing they could do. And another thing that some people have tossed around that they could do is the new goggle might be their expensive goggle, and perhaps the old one could be turned into more of like a budget goggle. Like they might drop the price on that. Who knows? That's all just sort of more of a suggestion rather than anything else. But it's obviously a route that DJI could go. And if they were to do that, some of the competitors like Walksnail would, I think, be in huge trouble. I mean, if you could buy the DJI FPV goggle that we have now for like $300, that's a good entry level into FPV HD for a lot of people. So hopefully DJI is maybe listening to some of the suggestions out there and might go that route with them. If of
course they're watching the show. Yes.
Yeah, of course DJI is watching the show. We got Frank Wang in the house.
Well, he's incognito out there though.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. But yeah, things are looking better on the DJI side of things. I also want to say, in case anybody missed it, I know CatX, who has typically supplied the Vista units and the cameras. Just real quick to go over this one. We're probably not going to have to worry about getting supplies for that. Seems like RunCam is going to fully take over the reins for the current FPV system guys, and the RunCam link is the same thing that CatX has been producing. I put that in air quotes because we never really thought that CatX was making that anyway. RunCam's going to be putting that out. We're going to be good on the cameras. I heard from another Facebook post by, I think, Oscar Liang said that RunCam told him they were working on another new 120 frames per second camera as well. So, I mean, the options are there. We're going to have options, I think. So feel good if you bought the V2 system. I think there was some question about what the hell was going on, whether we were going to have parts, whether this Walksnail thing was going to completely screw things up. But I think we can relax about that. Everything's going to be okay.
And what do you think of them releasing another, kind of all-in-one FPV quad, this Avata, so supposedly more of a Cinewoop with the inductive propellers? You think that's anything's going to be popular in the community?
With the wider like FPV community, probably not. But for the cinematic guys, yeah, it's a product that I think that they want.
we hear a lot, just rumors saying, "Oh, it's an indoor drone or whatever." And I'm sitting here thinking, well, why do I want to? Especially it's supposedly is this the same camera quality that the Mini 3 has, which is good.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, well, why do I need to film the inside of my house roll? But somebody said you could fly it in maybe like stadiums and theaters and things like that, and take advantage of that good quality.
Right. I mean, you guys have seen indoor FPV videos with
Yeah,
Cinewhoops, right? And some of those fly-throughs are really, really nice. I mean, if you're people flying through a car dealership, stuff like that, that product might be right up the alley of people who are looking to do that, but they don't want to build. They don't want to do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
People that create media for a living, and they want those fly-throughs because those fly-throughs are more popular than ever.
Hey, I've got a question for you, John. So obviously, I've talked to you many times about the issues that I have wearing goggles. Do you think that we'll ever see a company like DJI offer an FPV style drone, or any company for that matter, not just DJI, but with a regular FPV screen that somebody like me could enjoy that kind of a hobby as well?
Yeah, it's a possibility. I guess don't they sort of already do that with the smart controller? I mean, it's an additional expense, but
so you could hook the smart controller up to the FPV drone?
The RC Pro
To the
has
goggles,
that
to the goggles.
HDMI port in it. Yeah.
Here's the issue, though. You don't. So you need the app to control things, and obviously, the goggles are where you control everything, and that's the issue that I've always had. Yeah, you can add another display on there. People have told me that many times. Well, yeah, okay. Then as soon as you need to adjust something, you got to try and put the goggles on and figure out what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just throwing it out there, John. If you seem to have your ear to the ground, and I thought maybe you might have heard something.
Yeah, I wanted to go over a couple of the chat comments because Maddie pointed out. Lon and Maddie made some good points that I've neglected to go over. So the V2 goggles are supposed to work with the O3 air unit, but supposedly the new goggles will not work with the old air units and vistas and all that stuff.
So that compatible.
That kind of stinks. But as long as they keep both pieces of hardware supported, it won't be an issue. Maddie also pointed out that there are 120 frames per second cameras already for from RunCam. What I was referring to is that RunCam is actually developing new cameras. So that's even more of a sign that it's not dead, right? There's going to be other cameras. They may be smaller. They may be, there's not a whole lot of details on that. But the point is there's some new stuff that's being worked on the RunCam side. But you're right. The RunCam Falcon is already 120 FPS, and it's a good replacement for the Nebula Pro that we've all been using. So basically, I think we're okay on the DJI FPV side of things.
Okay.
Yes, he did. Exactly.
Hey, before we move on here, John Flynn, do you have any interest in his new DJI FPV drone, the Avata?
I sure don't. I mean, to be honest, I'm just not the FPV aficionado. I'm actually lucky I got the Mini 3. So I'm just happy with that. My daughter's getting married. She's actually not getting married for a year or so now, but I'm just glad I was able to get the Mini 3 Pro under the wire. So I think my drone spending is going to be curtailed for quite a while.
Lon has another comment. We'll comment to Maddie here on the old air units aren't O3 compatible. The V2 goggles will work with both O3 and air unit, i.e. in DJI FPV and air units.
Right. Yes.
So you're almost going to need a score chart to keep track of what's compatible with what.
Right. That's the. Hey, look, just to see some kind of compatibility with an old product from DJI, that's a good thing.
Shock, yeah.
And technically, we haven't even seen it yet. Okay, so let's just keep that in mind. All of this is still unconfirmed. DJI hasn't said a word, but
Yeah.
This is coming from people that we know are connected to them and wouldn't likely put bad information out. But if it ends up being true, that will be nice for a lot of people. Look, just from a business standpoint, you got to think, right? There are a ton of people who bought the DJI FPV drone, and there's a ton of V2 goggles out there. It just really makes good business sense for them to make the O3 Air unit work with those goggles.
Yeah, it does. Okay, I think we kind of covered that topic. Let's go on to number 4 here. This is something I see popping up in the chats over on DroneNation shows for more than a month now. And I even put it, I keep seeing reports that AirSense, and we all know what AirSense is. It was introduced with the DJI Air 2S. It allows you to see other aircraft nearby that are kind of transponding their signal. But it was a feature that was announced for the Mavic 3, and people did see it working in the early days of the Mavic 3, but no one, I can't find any reports of anyone seeing it working recently.
Ron, I'm glad you brought that up. I saw a post on Twitter, and it was somebody complaining to DJI support, and I may have misread it, but I think they said that you have to enable it in the app. And I haven't tried it yet, but I'm going to do that live on the air right now. I'm going to dig through the app and see if I can find it. But it would kind of make sense, right? So we have an update, and you know how updates can reset some of your settings.
Right.
And you may have to go in and re-enable it. So I'm going to fire up my Mavic 3 right now. I'm going to dig through the menus, Ron, and see if I can find that.
And Ridge Flyer corrected me here. He said it was introduced with the Air 2 and not the Air 2S. But the Air 2S does have it, but he said it was introduced with the Air 2. So anyhow, that's something a lot of people talk about. It's some people out there are still upset that the AirSense is not working on the Mavic 3, since it was one of the features that was promised, listed when the drone was first released. But we'll let Marcus work on the background. And here's another comment that keeps coming up in the chats too. Last week in the comments, we kind of covered the Mini 3 and how most of the issues have been solved now with these recent firmware updates. But somebody commented that we were avoiding talking about the overheating issue of the Mini 3. And my question is, does anyone still have any overheating issues with it? It was addressed with the firmware update a while back already, and I really don't see any overheating issues. And I see and defy overheating issues. If you do a firmware update on the desk and you touch it, is it a little warm? It is a little warm, whatever. But I don't know if that qualifies as overheating. Overheating for me is it shuts down, it doesn't work. You get a announcement, the screen of the drone is overheating, that it's hot to the touch. I've got a lot of products right here that are hot to the touch or whatever when you run them a long time. So we have 4 people in here that have the Mini 3. Anybody have quote overheating issues?
No.
Well, what I was going to tell you, Ron, is I did have that come up one time. So when I was doing that video where I was testing return to home with the Mini 3, it was a very hot day. It was probably over 100 degrees that day.
And what's the temperature limit on the Mini 2?
104 is
Fahrenheit.
max, right?
Yeah.
So in any case, I was doing a lot of takeoffs and landings, and obviously, and the drone was out in the hot sun on the pavement, right on the tarmac. And at one point, it finally. What was interesting is, at almost the same time, my DJI Action 2, and it had been on for probably 40 minutes. And the drone, they both said, "Nah, sorry, we're shutting down. Time to take a break." And the drone actually, it actually shut down. It said, "No, I'm not doing this anymore." And I just let it cool off for a little while, and then was able to finish what I was doing. Same thing with the camera. So it was an extreme condition, right? I didn't fault the drone at all. In fact, the drone is saving its electronics when it does that. So I'm all for it. Now, if you call that overheating, I guarantee you the Xeno Mini Pro would have shut down way before that. Now, there's an advantage that the Autel Nano Plus has. It actually has a fan in there. It's the only mini drone that I know of that has a fan. and I have not seen it shut down. But really, these mini drones, they're so light. There's no fans built into them, and Koopy, I mean, you could probably talk about this more intelligently than me. They're just, heat is the enemy when it comes to electronics.
Yeah. Typically speaking, yes. Heat is the eventual death of all of our electronics, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
Marcus, you brought up a good point. I think it's the fact that the Air, the Mini 3, I keep saying the Air, the Mini does have a fan. I think everybody just assumes it's going to overheat because it doesn't have a fan. And we weren't really avoiding overheating. The only reason I didn't talk about it last week is because I haven't seen it. So I mean, it's and nobody else in the panel brought up because we don't see it. I'm not saying there's not people out there that don't have an overheating with a Mini 3, but if you do, you probably should send it back to DJI or contact them for return, because for the most part, for most people, I think the overheating issue is solved. What happened is a long time ago, when people first got the drone and did that initial firmware update back in end of May, June 1st, they first started shipping, they got warm to the desktop. And a firmware update that came out a couple weeks after that kind of solved that issue where it wouldn't get as hot as it was. And I think that was the fix. And I think a lot of this overheating talk is just old talk from those days, and plus the fact that people think it doesn't have a fan that's going to overheat. Hey, listen, Lon solved our the alerts here in the air sensor. He calls it ADSB alerts. He said DJI tweaked the system so it doesn't respond to aircrafts that are out of range anymore. And what he means by that is, like, before you could have an airplane flying 5,000 feet above you, and it would show up as a warning on your screen. Well, nobody's going to worry about something that's 5,000 feet up in the air. So he makes a good point, and a lot of times, when you're out flying, maybe you just don't have any low flying aircraft near you with that responder in it, so you're not seeing. So that's true. Right. It could be working. You're just not,
I'm not sure about that, Lon, because I've had some aircraft fly, where to the point that I would want to know about them close enough, and I didn't see them on ADSB. So if they just tweaked it to the point that it's an aircraft below 400 feet or something like that, no, that's not good enough. That's not the point of ADSB. So that's a problem if they did that.
Huh. Maddie's comment happened when I was at the beach on Saturday with TJ. I don't know about 20K, but it was high. I guess so. He did see one show up on. I guess that's the Air 2S they were flying, but
the Air 2S shows up, right? We're talking about the Mavic.
It's almost every time you fly the Air 2S, you see not every time, but you see it often when you fly the Air 2S. But they're right. I haven't seen it on the Mavic 3 since I first got the thing.
Okay, so there is a switch for AirSense. So, so in the advanced safety menu, if you can see that slider switch right there, and mine is on, and I still have not seen. I have not seen any ADSB warnings. I mean, since probably when I first flew the drone, and so yeah, I mean. Lon, you may be right, but I can tell you a lot of the places that I fly around here, we should be getting ADSB warnings, and I mean, he's right about 30,000 feet high, but I'm not saying that. I'm on the flight path going into the Boise airport, and say when I fly out at Heroes Park, those aircraft are probably 2,000 feet high at that point, and I want to know about them. And it should work. So anyway, there's my 2 cents, boys.
Yeah. Just something to keep an eye on there. It is worth mentioning. So, and let's move on to one more quick story, and then we'll get it right into the Race Day Quads lawsuit. Marcus, you have a point to finish.
Yeah, I got the drone fired up. I really, honestly, guys, I just want to go out and fly.
Okay, open the window. Open the window.
Yeah, open that window. You still got light, right? Our friends over at Insta360, who see them release a new camera every month now, they've teased a new camera coming out tomorrow. Now, my source from Insta360 says this is going to be like a non-consumer type of camera. So That's all I really know about it. But for any Insta360 fans, check their feed tomorrow.
So here, Ron, you and I both, I think, are kind of fans of Insta360. I really like the Go 2.
Yes.
However, the most, and I used it this past Friday when I was out at the drag strip. I take that little camera with me and I can do some cool things with it. However, anytime I want to get any video off of there, and Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this applies to virtually all their cameras. Before you can use that footage, you have to run it through their software. And it's an extra step in your workflow that, quite frankly, just puts them out of the picture for me. You know, call me I guess I am a DJI fanboy. The Action 2 is so much easier to use.
That is true of their older cameras. The newer ones, some of the newer ones don't put you through that, Marcus. That running through their software. But what you said is true about their older cameras.
Well, the Go 2 does. Yeah, I mean the Go 2 does. I mean, and it's not that old, but you know.
Well, it's a it's not old, but it's it's probably running older technology since it's a budget device.
Right. Yeah. Every time I have to use the studio to get the footage from that.
Right.
And you make a real good point there, John. Use the studio. They do provide a desktop application, but really Insta360 wants you to do everything on your phone. Right. And if you do that on your phone, you don't have that extra step that Mark is talking about.
Really? See, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Insta360, they make that desktop, but they really want you to do everything on the phone. If you've ever added, like I've added in the desktop app and I've added in the phone, and I just use the phone now. And Marcus, you're trying to incorporate that footage into other materials. And I only use the Insta360, the X2, the actual 360 camera, whatever. So I'm not incorporating 360 video into anything else, whatever. It's going up as its own video. So the phone is the only thing I need.
I think what Insta360 is telling me is that it's just not the camera for old guys like me.
Well, I mean, I mean, if you bought that new, what's their module one, the latest version of module one, you don't have to run it. I don't think you.
You don't?
The computer. So if you bought the latest module one, that would be for the old guys.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, on that note, I talked about TikTok before, right? Which is, I've actually used the Insta360 app on my phone, and that's actually faster if I want to just throw something up on TikTok real quick.
Yeah.
Get it on my phone and then put it on TikTok. Otherwise, if I were to do it on my computer, I'd have to transfer it back to my phone because the TikTok desktop setup just sucks. Like, not even worth bothering with. There's like nothing you can add. You can add special effects and nothing. It's pretty basic. So if you want to post a drone TikTok video, you really need to use the phone. So to go from there to the Insta app on the phone and then put it on TikTok, that's a really easy process. So it doesn't end up bothering me for that. But if I want to put something on YouTube that I want to edit on here first, then the workflow sucks.
Yeah, and I agree. The workflow that Marcus wants to do with it probably is a device for him. But like I use the One X2 basically only to create social media content for like what you're talking about, Instagram, Reels, TikTok shorts and things like that. And that's the perfect workflow for me doing all on the phone for all the reasons you just said, John.
Exactly.
Marcus, you got a point.
Well, I just want to comment on Lon's deal that you've got on the screen right now. Now, I can appreciate that, Lon, and I don't disagree with what you're saying at all. However, my understanding is that ADS-B is supposed to be on any aircraft when it's within controlled airspace. So, like I said, if I'm out at Heroes Park or one of the other parks, Kleiner Park that I fly at, if they're above 700 feet, they're in Class C airspace. They should have their transponder on, and often I will see a private pilot going by that's at maybe 1,000 feet, maybe, and I don't get that ADS-B warning on my Mavic 3. And I certainly think that I should at least know where that guy's at. Now, I totally agree with you. If it's an airliner that's flying above at even 10,000 feet, I don't need to know that. But anything reasonable, I haven't seen an ADS-B warning on my Mavic 3 in,
No.
yeah. So there's something else going
The
on.
story bears watching.
Yeah.
I mean,
Anyway,
they should be able to, have a mathematical formula that says, okay, the drones at 330 feet, the planes at 3,000 feet, a mile away. There's no, I mean, like, come on now.
They could
Figure it
also
out.
just make it an option, right? For people who
Sure.
want to know it, let them know it, and for people who don't want, just make it an option.
Marcus
You
said
can
there
turn
is
it
a
off.
button
Set
you
a
have to
minimum
turn
and make
off
an
if
option.
You don't want to see it.
yeah. You can turn the whole thing off, I guess, as I just showed you in the app. So
Yeah.
if you didn't want to see it, just turn it off.
Hey, listen, John Flynn, he flies the Air 2S a lot. Do you see a lot of ABS warnings out in Western Michigan when you're
No.
flying?
No, and I'm relatively close to the airport, and
Airport, yeah.
I've got planes that fly, near me quite a lot. And as my understanding, a lot of planes don't have the transmitter. If they don't have the transmitter, then it doesn't matter if you have the capability to receive it or not. If they aren't transmitting, you're not gonna see them. So I would say probably, 60% of the planes I see when I'm up flying, just in my area, I don't get any kind of a warning at all.
So
I
if you
can
look
relate
at a
to
sectional
that
chart,
as well.
oh, I'm sorry, John. Go.
I was just going to say real quick, I can actually relate to that as well, because where we fly by the river, even though it's Class G airspace, we'll see aircraft come, and it won't fire off on my Air 2. I don't get the warning probably around 60% of the time, maybe more, honestly. So I can kind of, and I leave my settings stock for that. I haven't changed nothing. So
See, I do on my Air 2S. I see them all the time.
Did you see Lauren's comment there? You can adjust the sensitivity on that as well.
Yeah, I'd like
Apparently.
to know. Tap your map and tap the airplane. Okay, so that's good to know. That maybe that's what I'm doing wrong. That's good to know, Lauren. Thank you.
I didn't
very
know
much.
that. We just learned something today.
Yeah. Thank you, Lauren. And Lauren's a little birdie that was telling us last week that we could see the Avata as soon as this week too.
Well, so that could be the whole issue right there, then, right? That could be it. I will take that task to.
Boy, Marcus is on the case now.
Yeah.
Hey,
Well,
that could be a good video subject.
Yeah. With my old Air 2, I would always get warnings. I actually live in a flight path of a couple of airports, and I would always get warnings and military craft going over. I've sent you guys videos of helicopters going over, and what is it? AC-130 going over too. I mean, they're nuts here, but luckily nothing at 400 feet. Thank God.
Right. Hey, look,
Mini 2 doesn't have ADS-B, does it? Or I just got a Mini 2 pretty recently.
The Mini 3 doesn't. Yeah, Mini 3 doesn't.
Okay, just making sure.
So,
yeah, I just got one recently. So,
well, we got Gary Nemo in the chat here, who's a diehard FPV guy, and he bought the Mini 3.
I know, and I noticed he also bought the walk snails too, the walk snail goggles as well. So he's been buying some of the new stuff that's been coming out there. He just got the hugger.
Maybe we're turning him back to FPV a little bit now.
Yeah,
to camera drone a little bit.
Yeah, he's flying Mini 3.
Yeah, okay. I know we're jumping back and forth here, but Lauren made another comment there that I think is worth talking about. That he says even on maximum, he still isn't getting any warnings on the Mini 3. And Lon says, "Pardon me."
I got it.
Yeah. And then Lon is saying that you can only change that when you get an airplane on there, and then you can tell it when you get warnings when you tap on the plane. So if you don't see a plane on your ADS-B on your map, then you can't change the settings. So just a couple really good points.
I'm not trying to make anybody make big videos for the channel, but either Lon or Lauren or both, it'd be nice to see a little tutorial video on that on your guys' channel.
Yeah, I can't say I've seen this covered almost anywhere, honestly. I mean, so.
Yeah, and Lauren is also saying that he had a near miss. So, yeah, I mean, I mean, obviously, for me, I always tell people that my ears are the best thing for avoiding other aircraft. You see them long before you hear them long before you ever.
Especially as
see 'em.
helicopters, I hear those things even so far away. I just, I got plenty of time to get the drone down like below 100 feet or something like that, and not have to worry about it.
The only point that I want to make is ADSB. Once we started seeing it on the Air 2 and the Air 2S, it just seemed to me to be a neat feature. It just was another level of safety to give you confidence when you're flying your drone. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, folks. Well, we covered a lot of this here, but let's get into the meaty part of the night here. Last week, I believe it was a Friday. Race Day Quads, which I believe, John, they're a supplier of FPV parts.
Major supplier. Yep,
major
very
supplier.
reputable.
Yeah. So they had a lawsuit. They lost a lawsuit they filed against the FAA over the remote ID and specifically over knowing the location of the pilots on the ground,
Right.
which seemed like bad news at first. But maybe there could be some wording there that might indicate that only law enforcement could see your location. And is there a silver lining in all this? Them losing the lawsuit? This is such a diverse topic, a heated topic, or whatever, with a lot of opinions, and they're all welcome. So, anybody want to start with what they thought about this case?
Well, first off, did any of us really think that this case was going to stop remote ID? I mean, I kind of knew better than that. However, we all have our own opinions on the pluses and minuses of remote ID, and for us as hobbyists, there's way more minuses than there are pluses.
Yeah, listen, I'm not a lawyer, but from the very beginning, right? And listen, I love Race Day Quads. I love that they did this, that they tried really hard from an angle that they thought would work. But when I first saw the basis for the case, I really thought that this was going to be a very hard one to win. In many cases, they would have had to prove that that there was absolutely no situation in which requiring remote ID was reasonable. Excuse me, sorry. And they were also kind of tasked with trying to prove that there was going to be harm done by something that doesn't even exist yet as well. And also the whole Fourth Amendment thing, which is basically the entire basis of the case. I felt like it was just going to be very, very hard to get a win out of this.
Right.
And John, remember the case? I'm going back 3-4 years where somebody took the FFA to court again over the you had to pay $5 to get a license, and that person won in court. They struck that down. But
John Taylor.
The FFA went to Congress and got it acted as a law rather than regulation. So it came right back a year later. So I'm afraid the same thing would have happened here. Even if Race Day Quads would have won in court here, the FAA would have just gone to the Congress and got them to make it a law rather than regulation, and that would be beyond the lawsuit. So I think all Race Day Quads could have done is delayed for about a year.
That's a possibility, right? Yeah, who you're talking about there is a guy named John Taylor, and he was a lawyer and a hobbyist himself. And at the time, we had Section 333, which was a law that literally said the FAA shall not make any regulations about model aircraft. And then they created that registration system.
Yep.
And because of that clause, the court ruled in favor of the lawyer. So they basically
remember, you could even get your $5 back, John.
Yes, you could. You could get I didn't have a $5 to get back because I actually registered during the grace period where you didn't have to pay at the time. And I knew not to unregister myself, Ron, at the time. You know why? Because I just knew that it was going to come back.
I did not unregister either. Yep.
And that actually ended up working out for me because when it was reinstated, I automatically had like 2 years of time. Can you stop? She's playing with my ring light. She's playing with my ring light. I apologize. Anyway, yeah,
Did
I
you
actually
call our DroneNation's going on here?
She was playing with my ring light.
Lots of good jokes there, John, but we're gonna leave it alone.
Oh, come on! You really what? Really get your mind out of the gutter, man. Seriously. Good God. But anyway, so yeah, I didn't unregister myself, and that turned out to be the right thing.
Yeah.
Stop that.
Well,
I'm
for
muting.
me, from the whole thing, from the start of it, is not that law enforcement knows where I am. I don't care about that. Is the public? I don't want the public knowing that I fly from my backyard or I fly from the local pond. I mean, that's the crazy part. That's the part that's an invasion of privacy.
Can I take you a step further, DeMarco?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, go.
So I agree with what you're saying. I don't mind the authorities knowing, but also say if I'm in Class G airspace, if I'm flying in Class G airspace, why does anybody need to know? The authorities even. I'm flying in a legal area. There's no. Why does anybody need to know that?
Well, here, Marcus, what I would say about that is if you are flying a plane in Class G airspace, I mean, does it matter then?
Well, except for with a drone, I can't fly above 400 feet anyway. All right, so I don't know.
Yeah.
And
Russ from 51 Drones made a video today, came out today, where he said he had I guess some leaks of speculation and regulation, but he said one of them, like number 2, was if you had to get a dongle or a module for your drone for it to be remote ID compliant, that would not show your exact location. So he was saying, he speculated that the thing may look like like one of the lights you put on top of your drone.
So let me refine that for you a little bit, Ron.
So help me out. Yeah.
It does show your takeoff location when you first take off. However, it doesn't update it. So if you took off and then you moved with your ground station to another area, it wouldn't know. The module wouldn't know.
Right.
So DeMarco, I think, made a good point. Well, okay, he takes off from his backyard, even if he's got that little module. Well, people can see that they're going to come to his house, right? He doesn't want that. And I'll even say, okay, so I'm out at the Snake River Canyon. Hey, it's nothing but sagebrush and open area. So how far do I move before they can't find me, right? So
not far. Then just look and see. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, it's only a matter of time before something happens. I mean, it might not happen to us. It might not happen to something in the Chacto, but it's going to pop up on Drone XL or Drone DJ. An article about something that happened. Yeah.
Russ spoke about that. 51 Drones spoke about that very eloquently. He basically said, it's not if, it's when it will happen. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, because I think about it, if we could look up people's license plates, man, it'd be a lot of fights and broken windows and people getting attacked at their house. Like you cut me off back on such and such. What? I don't know what you're talking about. Like you can't do that.
Yeah, and that's the other point. And Ron, I don't mean to steal your thunder, but that's the other point that Russ made was he said it's not like a license plate on your car. It's not. The license plate on your car, if you're parked in the parking lot at the mall, DeMarco, it doesn't say that DeMarco's over in J.C. Penney's.
Yeah.
And so it isn't the same thing. It's not a license plate. It's telling
what's J.C. Penney?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I think we've had this discussion before that there are a lot of us who would not necessarily be opposed to the idea of a digital license plate on our drones, but this is not the equivalent of a license plate. Your license plate doesn't tell someone where you live so they can go get beat up. So it's quite different. And initially, remember, they wanted your name on it as well, but they took that off, right? Yeah. Like you can't figure out someone's name from their license plate on a car. I mean, but that's what they wanted initially. They took it out
and then sorry, John. What I was going to say too is then the problem is like you can be flying legally, but people don't know that. They see a drone and say, "Oh, there's a drone by my house." Yeah,
Her
but
name
it's
is
legal.
Karen. Her
Yeah,
name is Karen. Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
Let me ask you guys, how much do you think this is really going to end up curbing bad actors with quads? How much do you really think this is going to actually put a dent in it?
there's not.
I was thinking the same thing, John. You're so absolutely right. So if I had your ability, John, that I could build my own drone, and John, I know you could build a GPS drone if you wanted to. I know you could,
Sure.
right? And you could do whatever you wanted with it. It would never be registered. The FAA wouldn't even ever know that it existed, and you could fly wherever you wanted. And I guarantee you, there will be people that'll do that, and there'll be a cottage industry of ways, I guarantee you, to circumvent not being able to take off with your drone and so forth with remote ID. Just like today, there's those. I'm trying to remember the name of that software that allows you to hack a DJI drone so that it'll take off in controlled airspace. I can't remember the name of it, but
Drone
that's going to
hacks.
happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, look, as it becomes known that, hey, these drones have remote ID, they're broadcasting, where your flying position is, and they've got all this information. People who want to do bad things with them, I think, will wise up to that. Now, will some total idiots get caught? Like, say, the kid who gets one of these and flies over a football stadium or the Super Bowl or whatever. Yeah, that'll be an easy catch. But I'm talking about like some of the real bad actors out there that, might be dropping drugs in a prison, right? Just recently, I think somebody was caught dropping drugs when an autel drone of some sort into a prison. So will someone like that pick up an off-the-shelf drone knowing that it's got that tracking in it, or will they look to get something built? I mean, I'm of the opinion that it's not gonna significantly curb people abusing drones. That's just me.
Yep, I think you're right.
Yeah, could it be a bigger thing? The FFA hoping the more hoops we make people jump through, the less people be flying.
Bingo, winner, chicken dinner. That's exactly what I think. I think they're trying to make it so difficult for the average guy that sees a drone on Amazon, a Mini 2 or something, and says, hey, I want to fly a drone. But then they find out about all the regs, and they go, you know what? I won't just bother with that. I'll do something else.
Yeah. I mean, now the only other side of it I could say is, okay, say somebody is flying in restricted airspace,
mm-hmm.
and somebody, a good Samaritan calls the police and says, "There's a drone flying around here. This is restricted airspace. There's no drones flying around here." The police, use the remote ID system, see the person, go over and pick them up, find them, and whatever. So that would be kind of illegal, and what would you want to say? Something should happen, right?
Well, in other words, so to your point is, I wouldn't be worried about remote ID in those kind of situations when you're in controlled airspace, just like you would have to get Lance approval or something. Yeah, I think the authorities do need to know where people are taking off with their drone and where they're flying to and so forth. I'm 100% fine with that. That's the way it is if you fly a private plane. I mean, that's, I don't see a problem with that. Like I said, when you're in uncontrolled airspace, that's where I kind of take issue with it. And for sure, the public shouldn't know.
Yeah, but okay, and say you're flying Class G on restricted airspace, and some Karen sees you flying, and she just automatically calls the police and says, "Hey, there's somebody flying a drone illegally or whatever," because she just to the Karen, all drone flying is illegal, whatever. So the police have to respond because somebody called, and they show up, and you're in Class G airspace, and you're you're under 400 feet and you're everything. I mean, the police have to be educated enough to know that, well, wait a minute, this person just called somebody. It was like, be like calling somebody, well, this person, Cameron called and said he illegally walked his dog down the street. The same thing. The police show up, and obviously there's no crime being committed here. But they have to be educated to know that you're in Class G. You're flying under 400 feet. You're not flying over people that they just go. They just leave you. Right.
But that's fine. I mean, look, if a cop shows up, I'd rather only have the police able to see the location and deal with them rather than some random potentially irate or dangerous person. So, I mean,
but John, well,
go ahead.
Here, the problem is the cops should know that. They should be trained on that. If someone called and said, "Hey, he's out here flying," and the cop says, "Where are you?" I'm on such and such street. Well, that's open. He can fly out there, and he shouldn't show up at your house. Then he shouldn't. I mean, what I'm saying is like they should be trained on the laws.
Yes. I don't disagree. This is a complicated mess, unfortunately.
So
here's another thing we didn't bring up already. Of course, if you fly a 250-gram drone, you kind of skirt this this whole thing. But of course, that doesn't help the FPV guys out because your drones are not under 250 grams. Correct, John?
I would actually say no. That's not necessarily true.
Okay.
There are tons of sub 250 gram quads out there. In fact, honestly, right now I probably fly more sub 250 stuff than I do the 5-inch drones. Just because they're so much fun. The form factor to me is so much fun. I mean, I love this. I absolutely love quads like this. You can fly this anywhere. You don't have to worry about nothing. It's quiet. I love this form factor. Tons
That's
of
a sub
people do as
250
well.
gram being with the battery in and everything.
Oh God, this thing weighs maybe 20 grams, Ron.
Okay.
This thing weighs maybe 20 grams.
Right.
So I mean, and even look, I've got this one here. This with the Insta360 Go 2 on it still weighs under 250 grams with the battery and everything.
Wow.
And you can get 5 minutes of flight time on this little 3.5 inch. I fly these all the time. So, if I were to have to go sub 250 to avoid remote ID, to be honest with you, I mean, that's probably a route that I would go. But, I look at this and we go back to what we were talking about before. I have a really hard time understanding, again, why is remote ID needed for even 50 feet in the air if you're not going to fly above the treetops, which is where a lot of us are flying. Whether you're flying a 5-inch quad over 250 grams or something like this, why the hell do you need remote ID for that? Which is why I strongly support shielded operations for FPV and the camera bird guys. I think that's a good answer to a lot of this.
But they're not even looking at that, John.
No.
I mean, that's the problem. Is it just appears that the hobbyists they don't even care about. I wanted to talk about with the point that Lauren just made, and that affects Ron and I know for sure because we have Part 107 and we post our drone videos on YouTube.
Yep.
Technically, that's in furtherance of a business. So
isn't it about what was your intention at the time of the flight, though?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, and it's confusing. That's right.
What's your intent?
Yeah,
and that's just the FFA's interpretation, John. That's not any law that's on the books anyplace. That's their interpretation. That who knows whether it can stand up in a court.
But do you want to try and fund the lawyer that's going to have to stand up to that, Ron? I can tell you, I don't. But the point of it is. The other point that Lauren was making is I put that endurance battery in the back of that Mini 3, and then it is above 250 grams. Okay, so how is anybody ever going to know that? Is remote ID going to tell them the battery serial number so that they'll know that it's a heavier battery? I don't know. And I've never seen anybody from the FAA out there with a scale weighing your drone either. So, I mean, I think Canada has it right. They say if it's under 250 grams, just don't be stupid.
Listen, listen, your drone will get weighed when crap hits the fan, okay? If something happens and there's an incident, that's when your drone will get weighed,
Right.
okay? That's when they're going to look at it. Otherwise, just generally speaking, no, the cop is not going to take your drone out of the air, put it on a scale and weigh. It's like, come on, guys. But at the same time, though, we can still argue, we can still discuss just some of the absurdities of the way the laws are. I mean, dude, it is beyond ridiculous that if you want to use it for any kind of commercial purposes, is going to have remote ID on it.
And they put it in the same boat with the Matrice 300.
And if you are within 5 miles of an airport, you've got to make a lance request, even if you're going to just be flying this around in your backyard. I mean, these are just some of the absurd things that they just aren't addressing.
I need to respond to Lon. So Lon, what that means though is, yeah, you're right. DJI doesn't put any remote ID on their mini drones. I understand that. But because I'm a Part 107 flyer, I'm going to have to put one of those modules on it if I ever want to show a video on YouTube. So it applies, Lon.
Yep, exactly. I'll just say this about FPV real quick and then let other people talk. Like, I expect massive amounts of non-compliance with this from the FPV communities. I can see it already looking at the groups. Personally, I don't think it's smart to write the FAA, I'm not going to comply, okay? I kind of cringe when I see that. I understand where people are coming from, but it's still not the right thing to do. And, if you're not gonna comply, don't write that on the internet. Yeah. That's what I would say, because we don't know what this is going to depend largely on enforcement, right? And a lot of people know they're going to have a really hard time enforcing this. So to try to get a crowd who already, let's be honest, a lot of people in FPV break the law every time they fly without a spotter. Okay, every time they fly without a spotter, you are flying beyond visual line of sight because you can't see the drone. So for a lot of FPV flyers, they already throw all the rules out the window already, because they say, well, I'm mostly flying illegal anyway every time I fly by myself. Why the hell should I follow this? They haven't even come in and tried to address that with some sort of reasonable solution for flying without goggles on. Again, see and avoid. What the hell are you going to see and avoid if I'm just not even flying above the damn treetops? But it just defies logic.
Yeah. Gary Brandt Ariels is making another point here. They can't. The FAA can't enforce what they're doing right now, let alone following people around that aren't flying with remote ID or
right.
So the whole thing is just a little bit.
Well, let's be honest, Marcus. Most of the FAA enforcement of drone laws comes from YouTube, the YouTube police who report people through YouTube, and the Karens who report you by the phone, by calling the police, whatever. So almost all drone enforcement is by the public, reporting it to the FAA, and then they're obligated to check into it then.
Yes,
that's a great point. Yeah, most of the people that we know that have gotten a call from the FAA, that's exactly how it has come about. You're absolutely right.
Right, and we've had people say that the FAA does not spend all their time on the internet all day long trolling YouTube videos to try to get people. It is usually because it's reported to them, and then legally they have to open a case. The FAA just doesn't spend time online. So, I really wonder, again, how is a lot of this going to be enforced? I will say that manufacturers being forced to include remote ID on the over 250 gram quads and have it, I guess, automatically enabled on all these off-the-shelf quads is going to cause, the average person just buys a quad off the shelf. So you need to do that. But then again, what do you guys think the above 250 gram market is going to look like in the future? You think that there's just going to be less of those on the shelf at places like Amazon and Best Buy and
Walmart? Yeah, less.
No question about it. Yeah.
So then what happens? Then how long does this 250 gram exemption stay around.
Yeah,
I mean,
John, you make a good point. When do they move the goalpost down to 200 grams?
yeah, I mean, look, being under
Yeah.
250 grams right now only escapes you from registration and then the future remote ID.
Yeah.
But everything else you still have to do. You
Yep.
still have to get
Yep.
Lance clearance. You still
Yep.
have to obey all the other rules. They have
Right.
that set. So all they've got to do is just lump all the weight of all drones together, and then problem solved.
Yeah.
I mean,
John Flynn, are you a remote Part 107 pilot out there in Michigan?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And do you have any problems in your area flying with people reporting you, flying?
No, not really. I mean, and I tend to fly kind of out in remote areas too. That there aren't a lot of people to begin with. Kind of like Marcus, and I don't know that anybody would care that I was flying out there. I don't see it ever being an issue. But
You could easily find Class G airspace to fly in.
yeah. Yep. So, occasionally I'll fly, my backyard, which is Class D, but I'm just, going up and taking pictures or what have you. But I've never had any issues with any of the neighbors or anything. So
similar
Are you
for me
worried
as
about
well.
the remote ID? But before I ask the question, let's clarify here. The manufacturers have to be on board with remote ID. And what month is it? October, John? September, October?
It's September, 45
September.
days from now, I think.
Right.
Yeah, but the users, the end users like us, don't have to be on board until September 2023.
Correct.
We have a year to
Correct.
figure out our solution, but the manufacturers have to have their solutions, 2 months from now. Well,
Right, and to be honest with you, I'm not sure how they're going to do that, Ron, because this stuff still isn't set in stone. So unless
yeah, right. So in
un-
other words, these manufacturers, they have to have probably a couple different things in works, and then just go with whatever one gets finally approved,
right, yeah,
or get an extension.
Yeah, or get an extension, which is what I think is probably going to happen, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, so it's very confusing for it's the end users like us, whether you're flying FPV or camera bird drones, and boy, just think how confusing it must be for these people at the agencies, the drone companies, or whatever. They must have hired full-time people just to work on this.
Well, that's true. I mean, I remember I used to have to keep up with all DOT regulations on my when I had a job. However, the commercial people, they'll just do that. They have the resources. But Ron, I just think for the everyday guy, I just think it's going to keep a lot of people out of the hobby, and I think that may be the whole point of it. They don't want a lot of people out buying drones, and there's going to be a certain amount of people that are just going to say, well, there's a lot of red tape that goes with that. So yeah, maybe I just won't fly a drone.
I'll get an RC car instead.
Yeah.
Well, I've sent you guys pictures of Walmart's drone operation not too far from me.
Yes, they were great shouts. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've driven by a couple of times, and I don't see a lot of activity out there. That said, you have to go to Drone Up to buy something. It's got to be less than 5 pounds. Last time that I spoke to them was around July 20th, and they were only doing 1 mile radius. And the gentleman told me that they'd be pushing that out as time went along. I'm about 4 miles from there. So but like it's not a rush to buy stuff that would be
Well, I'd love to see you buy something, DeMarco, and then film the drone delivering it.
I am planning that actually. So
as soon as you get the chance, yeah. Hey, Eric Lipinski and Maddie are making a couple of good comments here. Eric is asking about people that already have older drones that are over 250. So how many of those people are just not going to buy a module? Probably most, right? I mean, why would you? You're going to voluntarily go out and spend $150 on a module, maybe. However,
Well, what, wait a minute. What if DJI? Well, I'm just assuming it could be any company, but we'll say DJI. What if they shoot a firmware update that doesn't let
that
the
was
drone
my
fly
next
until
point.
the module is on?
That was my next point, is that perhaps then that'll happen, is that these companies will do that. Then you'll be glad you hung on to that Hudson, huh?
Right?
Or your older, well, yeah, or maybe a real old drone like a Phantom 3. Since DJI doesn't
Doesn't
support
even
Phantom 3s
support
anymore,
that
they probably
anymore.
won't
Yeah.
support sending a firmware
Yeah,
update.
that's a good point. All of a sudden, Phantom 3s are selling for like $5,000. But it's a great point. I mean, and there again, it comes down to policing. You know, if you have all these people flying all these drones, and like you said, there's drone companies, Unique and stuff like that. That are they going to, certainly DJI could probably wreck their older drones, but I'm just wondering about some of these other.
Well, look at Maddie's great comment out there. MJX, Holy Stone, companies like that, Real ID will be the end of them. They won't be able to afford to engineer all this stuff for drones in the U.S.
Possibly.
Yeah, I mean, unless they just focus on the sub 250 and then they don't have to think about it at all. I mean, if you go on Amazon even right now, you look for Holy Stone drones, a lot of them are already sub 250. Is that sub 250 as well?
Sub 250 from Ruco Drones.
Yeah, you're right, John. That's how they solved the problem. Just no more heavy drones for the U.S.
Yeah. They're just not gonna bother to produce them. But I do have a question though. To put a drone on a shelf in a U.S. store, it'll have to have remote ID on it. I want to know what happens to a company like Banggood or AliExpress or any of them selling a drone that's above that, above the weight with no remote ID.
Exactly.
What is going to be the avenue? And I bring this up because the FCC has a hard enough time keeping people from buying illegal video transmitters off of Chinese websites and stuff like that. What is customs enforcement now supposed to track down these drones that might be coming in?
Yeah,
exactly. How are they going to enforce it from that aspect as well?
Right, but their main job is to find illegal drugs and stuff like that. Do they really have time to check every drone coming through?
Yeah, I mean, I especially wonder how it's going to play out with some of the, FPV quads as well. Also, what is going to be classed as a complete drone? Like, if say a kit, you buy a kit, and maybe just the flight controller isn't in the stack, you have to plug it in yourself. Does that drone that's over 250 grams, when all put together, does the manufacturer have to include remote ID with that? Or because it's a kit, do they not have to include it? I mean, my understanding is that they wouldn't. If it's just pieces, then it's not on the manufacturer to do that. It's only for a 100% complete drone.
Yeah.
So there's that too. I mean, could it be as simple as, well, there's no receiver on this drone, so you have to add a receiver and supposedly add a remote ID module to make it complete?
EXO Blackhawk 2 for sale right now, $5,000. Come on. No remote ID.
Yeah. John, you make a good point. I mean, it's going to be so hard to legislate all this stuff down, just for, like you said, how could you rate laws like that cover every little thing you just mentioned there?
Right. I mean, like, look, they could make this quad not fly out of the box very easily. A lot of these FPV quads don't totally 100% fly out of the box as it is. Some of them you need to add your own receiver to. Some of them you need to buy props for. I mean, what is it? Is this only going to apply to complete 100% drones that you can buy off the shelf and fly, without any added parts? It's interesting.
Look at the comment right down there. I mean, that's spot on.
You can order Yahweh phones.
Yeah,
there you go. Lon's got it.
Well, but they're only illegal in the U.S. for government use or whatever, not for private use or whatever. Hey, John, I want to jump over to just a little bit different topic about some of these rules. This is a New Jersey thing, so
ooh, interesting.
In you're familiar with East Rutherford, New Jersey. It's up north. It's where the football stadium is, right? Well, the town of East Rutherford, because of the football stadium, put a law in. you can't fly a drone almost any place under 400 feet or whatever because of the football stadium, right? And a guy
Right.
got arrested. He went to and the football stadium's in Class G airspace. So a guy went and flew near there with when it was Class G, no, what do you call it? No temporary
Yeah,
flight
bars.
restriction, with no game on all. And he came around. The security came around, called the police, and they arrested him. And he has to pay a fine. Well, it's been found out that okay, New Jersey has a law, and it's a legal term, and I forget it. But what it states is towns cannot make up their own drone rules or regulations. Only the state can. So I think it's in court now. I think it's coming to the end. So that could be a big deal if this person wins on the fact that New Jersey law says that only the state can regulate this stuff and not towns.
That would be great.
Arizona does that as well. I know that for a fact, Ron. And Florida does that as well. In other words, Florida says localities can't make drone rules, as does Arizona. And I think, Michigan. I think Michigan was one of the first states to do that.
Michigan
right?
is very strong.
Yeah. And
My neighboring state of Illinois also has a law that says that, only drone laws can exist at the state level, not the municipality.
Yeah. It's a term for that. But you want to hear something real interesting, John? So, okay, I have a town right beside me, Ventnor City, that has these crazy drone restrictions. So I went and looked at the ones for East Rutherford. They're a carbon copy of the ones in the town next to me, except for the names of town. What these towns are doing, somebody set this up, and all they're doing is copying somebody else. So all these little towns are copying another town's drone regulations verbatim and putting them in their things or whatever
on their register. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, gentlemen, I need to get going.
All right.
Fascinating topic tonight. So, good work.
Okay, Marcus has to get going because he's got to go make all his drones remote ID compliant right now. So
Exactly.
because it's coming up soon. So
he's also got to shine his Corvette too.
Thank you,
yeah,
John.
Corvette remote ID compliant. Yeah, you better make that thing remote ID.
Yeah, well, can I? I'm going to say what you're referring to, John. So just right before the show, I got a comment on one of my videos where the guy says, he goes, well, you know what? I really like your videos and stuff, but you're showing way too much of that blue Corvette. Anyway, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, Marcus.
Absolutely.
There he goes. So, so this is, one of these topics where, this conversation, it just goes on, and because they kind of set this, it's been like 2 years now since they've kind of come up with a lot of this stuff. Remember, we had the 1 year where we had to put our suggestions in or whatever, and then they finalized it. Remember, John, like the day after Christmas when nobody was watching, they finally finalized the rules and put them in when nobody was paying attention. They slipped all this remote ID and stuff in on us when they knew nobody was watching or whatever. So, but we've been I think 2 years past that now, and we're still in this process of it happening, but it hasn't happened yet, and people don't know whether they get new drones or what, because they're afraid they won't be remote ID compliant. But we saw DJI just in the spring, they released firmware updates for I believe the Mini 2 and the Mavic 2 that made them remote ID compliant in Japan. And supposedly Japan's system is going to be similar to what gets released here. So that tells me if DJI can make their older drones compliant in Japan, they can probably do it here just via a firmware update.
Yeah, it's going to depend on what the spec is. Hopefully they make it very reasonable. I don't see why remote ID modules, even, to stick on your quad externally, have to be expensive. Look, a GPS, you can buy a GPS module for literally $10. Okay. People do it for their FPV quads all the time. Literally $10. Maybe a really expensive, good GPS module is $30. That's as much as I've ever paid for a really good one. Yeah. And then whatever method is going to be used for the broadcast. RF broadcast modules are cheap. That's cheap stuff. To me, I see no reason for it to be expensive. I was watching a Pilot Institute broadcast, I think, today, and some remote ID modules were shown as an example, and one of them was like $160, and I was like, no way, that's just ridiculous.
Wow. So if you've got the $200 drone and the module's $160, there's no way you're going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, look, if it's prohibitively expensive like that, even less people are gonna bother to retrofit stuff. So I don't see any reason for that to be the case. Especially if they want people to actually even think about complying with this, they've got to make it reasonable. And like I said, a GPS is cheap. An RF broadcast module of sorts should be very cheap. This isn't complex technology. It's really not. So it shouldn't cost any more than, honestly, like $20 probably, if that. Got to be cheap.
Right.
Going back to the laws thing real quick, Ron, I do hope that something comes out of that case in New Jersey, because the state of Missouri, where I'm in, we do not have any preemption laws at the state level, and so it's really just every town does whatever the hell they want to do. There is a county near me, I think it's Randolph County, about 40 minutes away. Their laws are pretty crazy. You have to notify the county, and you can be fined up to $100 for not notifying the county that you're flying within the bounds of the county. You need permission to fly below 100 feet above any private property, and you could be fined up to $500 in that county if you don't have. I mean, just insane stuff.
Yeah.
There's other towns that they just decide to say, well, you can't fly any higher than 150 feet because their water tower is 150 feet maybe, or 100 feet, right? And they've just decided that that's what they're going to do, and they've copied. Some towns and cities have just copied what other towns and cities here have done. A lot of them are very small towns. Some of them no more than like 5,000 people live in these places.
Right.
So they're just kind of looking at what other towns and cities have done in Missouri. And
where they have very few city employees, so nobody has time to create that from scratch. So they're just copy and pasting. Yeah.
They're copying and pasting. They don't care if it's legal, if it's not. They're just doing whatever they see neighboring towns and cities do. And a lot of times it will happen. It will only even be looked into because something happened, right? Because a drone landed a place maybe it wasn't supposed to be, or perhaps somebody knows somebody who's in city council and they don't like that person and they're flying a drone, and then and stuff like that happens in small towns, and it's worse in small towns than it is large cities, because you actually have that kind of reach.
Somebody's brother-in-law is the mayor or whatever. Hey, did you see the comment by Michael Wright here? He said Kenji showed one. By one, he means a remote ID module that said was currently $300.
Yeah, I think he showed one. Yeah, there were various models that were shown, and I wasn't impressed with any of them.
Wow, it's $300. You mean like, put the poor hups of the drones like that the module's gonna be more than the drone.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why that should have to be. But
hey,
like
John,
I said, GPS
in
is
Western
cheap.
Michigan, do your small towns have regulations like that where they say, well, you can't fly drones in this town? Or
the city of Portage has a law that says you can't fly in any of the parks, the city parks. So
thanks, John, for telling us that.
That's why we didn't fly in the park.
Yeah, we were at a school.
Yeah.
The town I mentioned next to me, Ventnor City, they say no flying on any city or government property, parks, the beach in the summer, anything that they can say they own or whatever. There's no flying over it, John. They even, of course, they think they can regulate the airspace above their buildings to 400 feet or whatever. Which again, we all know that, if you had the money and the lawyers, you could win in court every time on that regulated airspace. Yeah,
exactly. That's obviously directly going after airspace. I was looking at one of the verbiage in the Race Day Quads lawsuit here, and on page 9, I thought this was really interesting that they decided to define Navigable airspace of the United States includes airspace above minimum flight altitudes and the airspace necessary for safe takeoff and landing of aircraft. I find it really interesting that now we actually have that just in writing. I don't know if it has been before, but that seems to me like it would also take the wind out of a lot of these local towns and cities from trying to stomp on drone flyers. I mean, what do you guys think?
No, that that is important verbiage. Really,
I thought it was
that
interesting.
again eliminates some of these regulations that little towns try to do. Because back to the bigger thing, because states,
Right
like
in
in
the
New Jersey, the state doesn't have any crazy drone regulations. Only the small towns do.
right.
Well, East Rutherford's not a small town, but the one next to me is.
Yeah, hopefully something is done. Look, I don't think the states should be running around. I personally, I don't think states or cities should be running around crafting different drone laws. If the if we have to be beholden to the FAA, right? Which this lawsuit kind of furthered the FAA's power
Yeah.
over drones, then fine, let them be the full authority. Don't make us now have to deal with BS at the state and local level, right?
Right, right.
One thing or the other.
Like the same way somebody can report you, say somebody could call the FAA and said, "Oh, yeah, I saw DeMarco flying illegal in a drone video," and they have to go report it. What if I, called the FAA up and said, "There's a town around here violating, making drone laws up on their own"? Would they have to investigate that?
Yeah, I mean,
Well, why is the town, why is the town any better than you or I if somebody calls up and reports? So
yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah. We talk about the state. Most states, I think the rules at a state level are made. They just copy the government. They just make their state parks illegal to fly, like the government does with their national parks. So I think most state drone laws relate to not flying in their state parks.
we're pretty lucky in Missouri. There are no drone specific laws in the state parks. You just basically have to be respectful and that's it. Don't harass wildlife, stuff like that. But you can actually fly a drone in state parks here. So I will say we are lucky in that aspect. But we just have a problem that the small towns, the cities, they're kind of out of control with doing all these various laws. So I do hope that something is done at my state's level as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's already been a interesting couple of years with this, and of course, like we said, there could be delays because nothing is really. Yeah. It doesn't look like they'll finalize the remote ID is early just a month from now. So this is probably an ongoing thing. So my bet is just go in and fly and do what you're doing now, whatever, and who knows how long all this is going to take to come in or whatever. But
just continue to fly, enjoy what you've got, and like I said, honestly, right now it's really simple. With remote ID coming, it probably is coming. It's not going away. You've really got two options. If you're recreational, right? You're either going to plan to retrofit what you got, or hope that there's going to be a firmware update to your existing stuff, or go sub 250 for as long as we'll have that. I mean, those are really your only two options. It's very simple if you want to stay legal.
Right. If you're a complete hobbyist that can just go 250 grams,
right?
Then
recreation.
None of this is really bothering you. If you just complete hobbyist, never plan on making any money or have a big YouTube channel or whatever, you're probably good.
Right. Those are the two legal routes that you can go. I mean, it really is that simple.
Yeah. And if you are Part 107 pilot that makes a lot of money with your license, you do whatever, real estate mapping, whatever you do. I mean, all this, the modules and all that stuff, that's all just goes into your business expenses anyways. So even for those people, it's probably not that big of a deal. And when a lot of those people, they're flying on job sites. If you're doing mapping and you're flying your drone for Part 107 job at a construction site or whatever, it's not that much chance that a Karen's going to show up in the middle of a construction site and hassle you.
You'd be surprised. Depends on where it is. Depends on the people around. I've seen some horror stories. I've seen some people have horror stories. People doing jobs, surveying and stuff like that. And maybe someone's house is right there. They come out and they're like, "Oh, you can't film my house. You can't film my backyard." It's like, lady, people are like, "I'm not even looking at your backyard. I'm trying to survey this site." But
Yeah.
yeah.
Or they did you see all those teenagers that walk by aiming their smartphones at your property? What if they were filming? Go over there and harass them.
I tell you what,
That's the First Amendment thing right there. Like, you can't hide your eyes. I mean, like, you can't say don't look at my house. Don't look at my house. You can't say that. So I mean, you can say it, but I don't have to listen to you.
Yeah. What if you were standing in the same spot with a camera with a long lens on, aiming at the house?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Look.
Hey, you called. What if you called the policeman and said, "There's a man, a block away from me. He's got a camera with a big lens. He's aiming at that house. Would you go over?
They can't say anything.
He's illegally shooting my house." The police.
The only time that they can say something, Ron, is if you stepped on their property. Then you can say something.
Right.
But if a woman walked to the window though and she's getting undressed, and we can all see it, I can take a picture of it.
Should have shut the blinds.
Fly my drone over there. Yeah. Now, if you lowered your drone to right outside the window, they would have a case then. I mean, but if you're 100 feet with your zoom on, it's nothing then. So.
Yeah, be no different than you stand there with a camera with a long lens.
Yep. Same thing.
So, Barry Markowitz, like he says here, no expectation of privacy in the public domain.
Ironically, that is the argument that the government made against the Race Day Quads lawsuit. That
right.
If you're outside flying, then you have no reasonable expectation of privacy. That's actually one of the things that the government used against that lawsuit. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, let's make all the people that work for the government put some kind of remote ID on their cars and stuff like that or whatever. I bet you there'd be that saying would go away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
So, all right. Well, I think we covered this always tough topic here. We threw it around a little bit, tried to give you the good and the bad, good, bad, and ugly of this whole mess here. Like Marcus said at the very beginning, hopefully out of all this mess, at least we get maybe some once Roadie is fully, we can maybe get some flying beyond visual line of sight let ups, and maybe let up in some of the other restrictions because of these new regulations coming in. And I think it's possible, especially the 250-gram drones, being able to do more things as far as maybe flying over people to some degree and things like that. So hopefully some good actually comes out of this rather than all the negative. And John, there's still a sliver of hope that before all this is finalized, that they will not reveal the location of the pilots.
Yeah, I guess that's a possibility.
There's still a sliver of hope out there.
Yeah. I'm just gonna keep, I'm just gonna go with the flow, see how things go. I mean, like I said, I've been flying a lot more sub 250-gram stuff in general. I don't pick up my 5-inch quad as often anymore, just because these are so much fun to fly. I get a lot of fun out of flying all the little small stuff. So, and it's come so far, honestly. Models like that have come so far. So, but the power of a 5-inch, I'm not gonna lie, you gotta. It's something that I'll always appreciate, a 5-inch quad. But
right.
If I have to go sub 250 to avoid remote ID, then all right, it is what it is,
Right. I mean, I've said the same thing on the camera side. Like my Mini 3 is probably a better drone than my first Mavic Pro was. Probably better than my Phantom 4 standard or whatever. Drones that I thought was these real good drones in the old days. The Mini 3 is a better drone, and it skirts all these new regulations.
Yeah, I've got a Mini 2 and I love it. I mean, if I have to use that to avoid it, that will be a decision that I'll make when the time comes. For now, I'm just gonna enjoy both my Mini 2 and my Air 2 and see what happens.
There we go, John. John Flynn, do you have do you have anything you're going to do differently when remote ID comes in, or?
No, I mean, I'm just kind of like John Coopy. You just kind of wait and see. I mean, there's no sense getting all upset about it. There's a lot that can happen, and I think hopefully cooler or saner heads will prevail, and some of this will have more clarity and hopefully a little more common sense, and it won't be quite the impact that that it could be. That's my hope, anyway.
It's mine as well. In the meantime, though, I'll be honest. Like, it's probably not a bad idea just to be cautious about how much coin you spend on a quad. If you think that there's a possibility that you won't want to comply with remote ID with a quad that you're buying that's above that 250-gram limit, then you might need to make the decision to not pick that thing up. It's just another thing to consider.
Right.
DeMarco, what do you have any? What are your plans when remote ID gets closer to being finalized and enforced for the end users like us?
Wow. The only thing that I'm thinking that I might think about is um, selling my non 250-gram drone. That's it.
Yeah.
But hopefully they'll have a workaround. No, but I tell you what I'm not doing. There's no way that I'm buying a $300 dongle. I'm not doing that. So,
I'm really thinking that's not going to end up being the case in the end. But yeah, listen, I would maybe consider selling my Mavic Air too. Okay, at some point, I would consider selling it maybe a year from now. Because as it is, I'm very happy with the Mini too. I mean, I just got that thing a couple months ago. I know it's old news to a lot of people, but I really love that little guy, and it can do almost everything that I want it to do. So maybe I'll just decide, hey, I'm not gonna deal with any quad over 250 grams. I mean, look at what the Mini 3 can do. It's freaking amazing, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
as
but
long as possible, we
said
can
that-
run to
that-
250 grams.
Yeah. I mean, the Mini 2, like you said, it still has its place. I mean, it lacks some of the new bells and whistles of the Mini 3, but just for a basic flyer, it got about the same range, about the same flight time on the regular battery. It flies just as almost as good as the Mini 3. So if you don't need some of the bells and whistles of the Mini 3, the Mini 2 is still the drone for a lot of people.
Right, like if this was going through, say even like 5 years ago, I think I think that would be a lot worse, right? The only thing under 250 grams 5 years ago was stuff like the SEMA quads and
Yeah.
crap like that.
Yeah.
No,
You're
so
exactly right. Yep.
we've got
The
lots of
250 grams
options.
drones come a long way. Well, we never had the term under 250 grams, until somewhat recently.
It was nothing decent. It was nothing decent. Yeah, DJI drones are most likely going to comply out of the box. Yep, agreed. Yep.
Yeah. And even some older ones like the Mini 2, it's a good chance it's compatible because it looks like it's compatible in Japan.
Yeah, but do you think that they would force that on people here in the United States? I don't see that happening.
You force them and me as far as
like just force remote ID onto all their drones, whether they're I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a terrible decision.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer.
I don't think they will. What do you guys think? Just on a yes or no basis. Do you think the DJI would force their Mini 2 to just automatically have remote ID? I don't think so.
I think it all depends on what pressure they're getting from the government. Yeah, I think
we'll see what happens.
I would say possibly yes, taking their cues from what the expectation is from the government.
I guess we'll see what happens.
All right, folks. Well, we're going to wrap it up here. We've been on a long time. Some people here have to get up and go to bed and get up for work or whatever. So we're going to let everybody roll out of here. Next week, I never tell you who the super secret guest is, but the special guest host next week will be Michael Wright. the birthday
Nice.
boy, will be back on
Hey.
the show, sitting in that the much vaunted special guest host seat. So I want to thank John Flynn, his first time on the show tonight. He did a great job in the guest host seat, and we want you back in the show soon or whatever, and talk about the great Michigan drone meetup next year. Maybe we can get some more stuff going for it. And John Kuby, always a pleasure to have you in the show. And thanks for being so versed in some of these rules and regulations that's kind of hard to untangle for a lot of us.
Oh, thanks, Ron, for having me. It's always good to be on with you guys. Nice to be on with Flynn as well. Finally get to put a face to the name. And
That's a
like
lot of
I
people
said,
in the chat. Yeah.
to be on with you, DeMarco, and Marcus is always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure, whether it's to discuss the bad, the good, the bad, and the ugly about drones. And like I said, someone needs to clip that that noise.
I just saw that because that's one.
I'm gonna clip it.
I just saw that because that's one of my favorite Clint Eastwood movies from the old days or whatever.
That's a good one, Koopy. No more. It's gone forever. It's gone.
No. When it goes up, I'm clipping it. It'll be in Facebook in the DroneNation group.
And DeMarco, thank you for co-hosting the shows you do every week. And DeMarco, he's only got about another month off, but he's going to get his football picks going again.
Oh yeah,
Oof, yeah. It's only about a month.
I'm doing my homework.
He's on the hot seat again every Monday night. And you know what? You're going to be under more pressure this year because Monday night stepped up their game. You know, Troy Aikman moved from Fox to doing the Monday night games now. Him and what's the guy he works with, the baseball guy? They moved to Monday night. So
what is his name?
Monday night it's gonna be a big deal now. So anyways,
figure it out.
And Marcus had to go early, but thanks, Marcus. Couldn't do the show without him. Week in, week out. So okay, folks. It's August now, 1st of August today. A lot of people, you only have one good month or so before your weather changes again. So get out there and fly as much as you can. Not only does your weather get colder, but you'll lose a lot of light when you get into September. The light starts disappearing. So again, fly while you got the weather and you got the light. Now I know John and DeMarco, they have to wait for the heat to go away to fly a little bit more. They're in work, but I'm sure John Flynn, you probably won't. You probably get the cold weather comes too soon up there in Western Michigan, right?
Yep.
Oh, miss that.
We'll be shoveling snow.
Yep, Ron. I'm looking at tomorrow 98 degrees, Tuesday 98 degrees. Wednesday 95. It's not looking like a good week. It's not looking like a good week.
Those type of days, John, I get up almost right when the sun comes up and fly in that first hour late when it's a little bit cooler or whatever.
Yeah, that's the only way to do it. That's the only way to do it for sure. But I'm ready. I'm ready for the fall. To be honest with you.
All right, folks. Thanks for everyone in the chat that joined us. Thanks for all the useful information. I mean, Lon, Lauren. So many people out there put good comments, and Mike Wright and so on, helpful that what we were talking about, corrected us, and we were saying some things wrong. So thanks all you guys for you contribute to the show as much as us people up here in the pound do every week. So the show is the chat. It really is. You guys, the support and love, and you support all the shows too, not just us. You see the same guys supporting all the shows throughout the week. So thank you. For what you do out there. And John Flynn got to mention tonight that he supports all the shows and communities out there. So he's a special man out there, for again the way he supports this great this great hobby here. So all right, folks, we will see you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.